Okay, so once again, this is another topic for HME 131 focusing on the cruise industry. So we have here the anatomy of a cruise ship. So we have the stats of ships. So we have here the classic ocean liner. In the PowerPoint presentation that I have presented to you, you can see there the classic ocean liner, which looks like the Titanic. So primarily used for transatlantic crossings or world voyages, mostly built before 1970. So they're slick, streamlined, and built to knife their way through open oceans because there are, just like Titanic, the ocean there has icebergs, and to crack those icebergs so that they can have a path na going sa destination nila, they need to have the knife looking ship. So most are rather small by today's cruise standards, but several vintage liners are as big as some of the larger contemporary ships. And then we have the contemporary cruise ship. Tapered, knife-like hulls gave way to broader, boxier, skill-attractive vessels, and built to accommodate uniformly sized staterooms and the numerous activity venues that the modern cruise vacation experience requires. So there is a big change, no different siya sa liner, the classic liner. So it's generally called these giant size ships as the mega ships, and they can accommodate 2,000 passengers or more and have 12 or more decks. So that's how big mega ships are. We also have smaller ships, most of which accommodate fewer than 100 passengers, like the barges that we have. The cruise lines that rely on small ships cruising often stress education, self-adventure, and our luxury experiences. And then we also have masted sailing ships, or those with sails. No, if you have seen the Pirates of the Caribbean, that is an example of a masted ship. These vessels are technologically sophisticated with computers controlling sails. The crew and even passengers volunteers to rig the sails. And then the ships have motors just in case the wind dies down. So people who sail in such ships want to experience rooted in other times when billowing cloth and the romance of the sea or what sailing was all about. And then we also have the riv boats. So yung barges natin, an example of a ribboat, it's also called the paddle wheeler. So often modeled after great steamboats of the 19th century, and these vessels permit passengers to experience America's great rivers. The modern style riverboats too are popular vehicles for experiencing such legendary rivers as the Rhine, the Danube, and the Nile. And then we have the barges. So different yung barges natin here. So we call that riverboats. Eventually we travel using the riverboats to pass through basically near destinations lang, no? And then yung barges dito is used for cargoes. So usually luxury is affording a pampered and leisure discovery of the countryside, in which yung mga mabibigat na cars or trucks they can use, no, to transfer from one place to another. And then we have ferries, those ferries that you've seen in Cebu City. This is an example of it, as you have seen in the PowerPoint presentation. Usually we don't think of ferry trip as a cruise. So in Europe, especially in Northern Europe, many ferries provide an overnight or even multi-day cruise-like experience with private staterooms, glitz entertainment, and bountiful dining. So lesser lang ang days niya where you can use the ferries as a form of transportation, no? But it's not compared to the cruise lines. And then we also have multi-purpose ships. So some vessels like those that sail the forward lines west coast of Norway serve many functions. So they carry cargo, an example of which is those cargo ships that in which yung mga tankers natin nilalagay. Like one example is Mercs. So transport passengers between close by villages, and they also serve as cruise ships for leisure travelers too also. And then we have miscellaneous types of boats. There are so many other boats also, or ships. So many unusual form of water transportation provide cruise-like vacations, and it's possible for a leisure traveler to book passage on a freighter. So the itineraries are unpredictable and the entertainment are non-existent, example of which is yung Kukalyongko. So that is an example of a freighter. And then we also have a companies, or comparing older with newer ships. So there is a real big difference, no, between the older ships and the newer ones. So, yung older ships rather, they use wood, brass, and other natural materials, whereas the newer, they use synthetic materials more common. And then for the older ones, modest-sized public areas, while sa newer ones, larger yung areas. And then yung older, they can travel up to 30 knots, while yung mga newer is 25 lang. And then you have this nostalgic appearance for the older ships. For the newer ones, they also provide you modern appearance. And then the hulls have different drafts. Some ports are therefore inaccessible and require tendering, whereas the hulls have shallow drafts. Some ports are more accessible. And then yung older ships have small windows or portholes, and then yung newer has larger windows for purposes wherein if there are some accidents, unexpected lang, so there are chances nga dili malumos ang mga guests, or that is 1 to 10 incidents lang na siya, but they made the windows larger. And then yung older ones, more obstructed stateroom views, and then fewer obstructed stateroom views in newer, because they're much larger than the older ones. And then we also have here a pedestrian for the older ships. The flow through ships sometimes awkward, whereas the newer ones, the easy pedestrian flow through ship. And then stateroom verandas more rare, whereas yung sa newer, meron silang mga verandas sa staterooms. And then smaller swimming pools for the older and larger swimming pools in newer. And then we also have promenade decks. And then yung promenade decks for the newer is less common. For the older ones, we have many different size staterooms, and staterooms are relatively large, whereas yung newer modern ships, they have a standardized stateroom size, and some staterooms might be smaller. And then we also have, in sizing the ships, how does the industry measure its ships? So the industry measured the ship according to the number of staterooms or the rooms in the ship, how many passengers can the ship accommodate, and the gross registered tonnage or the GRT, or how heavy is the ship. So it's very important because we are traveling at sea, and the sea also is not really that friendly. So understand that there should be sizing. Just the same with mga land-based hotels. So yung GRT natin is determined by a formula that gauges the volume of the public spaces on the ship. It measures enclosed space available to passengers. So we have here advantages of larger ships. They offer many more facilities, activities, choices, and options. They are often more dramatic looking, are able to serve a wider spectrum of guest types, and easily accommodate groups. And they are generally quite stable in the water also, compared to the smaller ships. They offer a more intimate atmosphere and can sail into smaller places and permit easier embarkation and debarkation. I will be sending you a video on how to experience cruise ship, and make it simple for passengers to get to know to the ship and others on board. So those are some of the advantages. And then we have also here a space ratio calculation, or yung tinatawag natin GRT, eventually the space, which will determine also the weight of the ship. So the space ratio number conveys the space or elbow room each person will have. So we have here, for example, if a vessel has a 30,000 GRT and carry 1,000 passengers, yung space needed per tao is 30. I'll give you an activity on that one later on. So going into the ship facilities, we have the reception area, which is very nice, the dining room, which is very large. You can see this all in the PowerPoint presentation that I have sent. You have alternate dining areas, the showroom for entertainment purposes, the pool area, and then they also have health clubs, children's area, and then the gift shop, more or less yung mall inside the cruise line. And then we have medical facility, movie theater, photo gallery. We have internet centers, the casino, and also yung mga staterooms. So the stateroom is also called as a cabin or rooms. No, it's a ship. What the guest room is to hotels. Basically, it is just a room inside the ship. So you can see here an example of an outside stateroom where there is a window, a view of the ocean, and then yung inside stateroom is walang windows, and then yung suites considered as the most expensive. Okay, so we have here also yung mga deck plans inside the ship. So deck plans are important. So in Brucios, color coding makes the deck plan easy to read. So usually the higher the deck in the ship, the higher the category and the price. And deck plans often note certain special stateroom circumstances. And also deck plans are also posted aboard ship. So deck plans are actually, they are the, kumbaga, package, really, rather it's just an insight for you, to plan your vacation inside a cruise line, because the higher the deck of a specific ship, the much pricey, so mahalon siya. So kung dako siya nga ship, mahal gyud ang bayron nimo the whole duration of the travel. And then miscellaneous considerations lastly, which is the last part of our topic, for the anatomy of the ships. A ship's registry usually has nothing to do with where the line is headquartered. So in some ships, smoking is permitted almost everywhere on board. And where do ships go when they retire? So each year, the Center for Disease Control conduct about 2 unannounced inspections with a cruise vessel that carries 30 or more passengers and that all in U.S. ports. So, say for example, those are some of the considerations. If there are some instances wherein there are accidents, the ship might be banned for operating for a while for certain renovations and checking, but then these ships actually operates whole year round. So this is the anatomy of cruise ships, and I hope that you have some insights about what cruise ships looks like, and I will give you also information or additional information about the life inside a cruise ship. So thank you and have a great day.